Did we get? Oh, that's video. Hold on. Whoa. Hold on.
Coming up next on Rugby Wrap-Up, Major League Rugby talk with Atlanta head coach Scott Lawrence and Big Shots Dan Power and Pete Steinberg.
Rugby Wrap-Up brought to you in part by The Pig and Whistle, the world's best rugby pub, and Lean and Limber. Stretch your way to a healthier lifestyle.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Rugby Wrap-Up. Matt McCarthy in Midtown Manhattan talking Major League Rugby, and we have a mega show for you, ladies and gentlemen. Starting off with the head coach of Rugby ATL, the Atlanta franchise in Major League Rugby, Mr. Scott Lawrence. Scott, welcome.
Thanks, Matt. Happy to be here. Honored to be on for the first time.
Scott, last week Josh Smith was on this show, and yours truly had to eat a plate of crow. This week, it's 2 full plates of crow as your team is tied with Toronto at the top of the table in the Eastern Conference and tied overall with San Diego for first place in the league. None of us supposed experts saw that coming.
Well, Josh has certainly earned his right to serve you that crow. He's done a fantastic job up there in New England, and we're kind of looking at them as some things we can learn from them going into the season, and we certainly learned a little bit before we went into our second game this week.
And like your Free Jacks counterpart, you are one of 2 American coaches in the league. Do you feel any added pressure being an American?
No, not really. I know Josh and I get some credit for being the American coaches, but America is a place where people come to start new lives and new careers. And we've got coaches like Nate Osborne and Greg McWilliams and guys that have made our country home. And I consider them to be Americans as well.
Great answer, Coach. Great answer. But let's talk a little bit about pathways, because these days we've got kids now playing rugby, whether it's touch or even tackle. We have high school programs blossoming. College is feeding Major League Rugby right now. Men's clubs also feeding Major League Rugby because there's no true minor league system yet. But we do have an actual pathway. And Rugby ATL is tapping into that in terms of college players on their roster. I'm just looking through it. You've got guys, obviously, from Life University. You've got guys from like the likes of Arkansas State, St. Bonaventure. And I was just talking to Tim O'Brien, the head coach at St. Mary's, after their controversial / epic win over BYU. And that was on the FTF For the Fan D1A College Rugby Show. But he was very proud of the fact that 4 starters between the 2 teams, between your team and NOLA, were St. Mary's grads, and there would have been 5 if Holden Youngert had actually suited up.
Well, it's pretty exciting to see. I mean, having grown up playing here, it's exciting to see for these players. I'm really grateful to give them the opportunity to do it. It's never been a better time to be a part of rugby in our country.
Yeah, you guys have all these college players on your roster, including guys like the 2 Harleys, Davidson and Wheeler. You've got Chance Wengalewski, who is on the Rugby Wrap-Up All-Hair team. Stop stealing my shtick in the booth, guys. You've also got the Van Skulkwyk brothers, but you're making a point of committing to these players.
We want to see them grow as people. We have our first core value within our organization is to develop people. And it takes a little bit of commitment to do that with American players. The landscape is pretty fractured in terms of the environments that these players are coming from. So you have to invest in looking at American players a little bit different than guys from abroad.
And you know about that as well as anybody, because as a player, you had no real pathway, yet you made the Eagles, and then you chose the coaching path. And with very limited opportunities, you made the most of it. You thrived, actually. But along the way, what was it that shaped your coaching style?
It always starts with other coaches. Coaches, that's what we do, is we're hoping to not only create good people and good players now, but we want them to be successful in the future. And it started with me with my first national team coach, who was Tom Billups. And I learned a lot from Tom about being an amateur professional early, about being committed to my craft as a player, doing my homework, things like that I think just prepared me for later on in the future. And then I just worked with great coaches from there. And I think one of the things that you can take from that is find people that are better than you are, whose advice that you trust, and then steal it and use it. And I think that's been a big part. Is I've been incredibly fortunate to just be surrounded by people from Tom Billups to Peter Thorburn to John Mitchell to guys like Marty Veal, who I learned a lot from when I worked with last summer, to Gary Gold and Hugh Bevan and Greg. And, these are just not only good coaches, but good people.
Well, I think I speak for many when I say that the way you carry yourself commands respect and bodes well for your season.
Well, if we keep getting better each game and we're developing good habits as young players learning to be pros, that's a successful season for us.
All right. Speaking of younger players, I got to bring up Terry Matthews and the Matthews clan. Terry is the head coach at Hudson Catholic in my beloved hometown of Jersey City, New Jersey. And Terry and I go way back. We actually go back to high school where we actually swam together. Yeah, swam together. But he's the one that gave me his ATL hat to put on the set. And I was wondering if, maybe $200-300 we get his kid Eamon some playing time. What do you say?
He's on his way. I tell you what, I'll tell you something about Terry and about Eamon. What a wonderful family, for one. One of the first times I met Eamon, I learned a lot about his parents and some of their values. And it was one of the big reasons why we invested in Eamon to come down with us. He is a product of New York, St. Bonaventure. He's got some growth to do within our team. He knows it. He knows his path. And what a committed kid. So his time will come.
Excellent. I had to give my JC guys, my Hudson Catholic, Jersey City guys, some love, along with my St. Bonaventure guys. You hear that, Tui Osborne? So whatever you can do is appreciated. Changing gears, you had 2 other matches this weekend end at death in the try zone with no tries awarded. The Twitter sphere was aflutter with all kinds of arguments as to whether that law should be changed, that an attacking team shouldn't have the match end while the opposing team is holding up a try in the try zone. And by I say the Twitter sphere was afire, it was me and Will McGee going at it. What is your take on that?
The wonderful part about our sport is that every part of the game is a contest where the attack and the defense have an equal opportunity to turn the play or access to the ball. So, if somebody gets over the try line, the equal opportunity is with the defense to stop that try. So I think it's within the spirit of the game. I think the law reflects it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that it's allowing for gut-churning drama, and it awards heroic stands on defense. And this is all done with humans making the call because we don't have TMOs yet. But I know we could talk about this stuff all day long, but you got to go. So the name of the team, Rugby United New York, didn't really have a team name or a mascot. It's organically becoming the Roosters. What do you got with the Rugby ATL, the Attlers, the Rattlers? What do you got?
Well, I got a T-shirt from our fan base in the sin bin this week that had a rattlesnake on the back, and I know that's been very popular, particularly with you around us being the rattlesnake. So I like it. I think it represents an early symbol of our country and freedom, and it's very much Georgia rattlesnakes are a reality that live in my backyard. So I think it's a good mascot for us going forward.
There you have it, straight from the skipper's mouth, ladies and gentlemen. And you got to love the "Don't tread on me" mantra. It's more American. Got to love that. But we are definitely out of time, according to what the folks off camera are saying and doing right now. I got to salute you and the organization, specifically your fan base, because they've been great so far. You've got a nice facility down there. I spoke to Marcus Calloway, the owner, in Washington during the exhibition match. Regular guy, easy to like. The whole program is easy to like. Well done, sir.
Thanks, Matt. The community has been fantastic. We've seen support from local clubs, and not only that, but in our region, we really wanted to be a team for the Southeast region in particular, and that means serving them through being out and developing not only the clubs that come to our games, but also providing them an experience when they come to see us at game time that makes them want to come back. And they've been looking forward to rugby coming to the Southeast, professional rugby, for a while. So it's on us to deliver that.
Well, it's great for the league that you guys have come out firing as a new franchise. And I'm more than happy to eat humble pie on your behalf and wish you nothing but continued success, Coach.
Thanks, Matt. Really appreciate being on. And again, I'm really honored. I've watched your show for a while, and I enjoy all of it. There's good content, good humor, and hopefully I can contribute.
Thank you, sir. That's Mr. Scott Lawrence, ladies and gentlemen, head coach of Rugby ATL, the undefeated upstart newbies in Major League Rugby. But don't go anywhere, because we have Mr. Dan Power and Mr. Pete Steinberg with more Major League Rugby after this.
Join the party at the HSBC LA Sevens International Rugby Tournament. Experience the world's best rugby teams, including the New Zealand All Blacks, England, Ireland, Olympic champion Fiji, and more. All looking to steal the crown from the defending champions, USA. Over 40 games, 16 teams, and non-stop action. Come be a part of the best rugby weekend in America. February 29th and March 1st in Los Angeles. Get your tickets now at la7srugby.com.
And we are back. Matt McCarthy in Midtown Manhattan talking Major League Rugby. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're going to follow a Scott Lawrence, you better follow him with some serious star power. And that's exactly what we're doing. We have the two Ps, Power and Pete. Pete Steinberg and Dan Power on the horn. Dan, welcome back to the show.
Matt, 2 weeks in a row. Appreciate it, champion. Happy to be back on Rugby Wrap-Up.
Dan, I'm going to let Pete address your outfit. Pete, what the doctor's hospital is up with his outfit?
Well, you know, Dan is either just coming out of surgery or about to go into surgery. But despite what he tells the ladies, he is not actually a surgeon.
All right, fair enough. You heard it there from Pete, who is always in a booth with Dan someplace for the CBS Game of the Week, in case you were wondering, wait a minute, I recognize those guys or their voices. All right, let's go to it. We have Vegas. We had 4 matches in Las Vegas, which made for a very different kind of weekend in Major League Rugby, filling the void of the vacated Vegas Sevens. Let's start off with New England with 33 points. The Warriors scored 39 points, and we had the first of our upsets, if you will.
Yeah, a couple of Schultz penalties are the difference there, the 6-point ball game. But really for the Warriors, they controlled the ball, Matt, better than New England did. 61% possession for the game, and tough to win when you're not playing in the right part of the field. Heartbreak for us, we picked New England. We were a bit scared after week 1 going against them with the vicious attacks coming from the northeast. But credit to Chris Latham and the Warriors. Way to turn it around from a rough start to the year.
Yeah, hey, Pete, they got the win, which is the most important thing, and they got the points, which will add up at the end. And kudos to Kimball Kerr and co. for getting that win. But it took the sinful Free Jacks spending time in the sin bin in Sin City with 2 ridiculous yellow cards and dopey penalties after it looked like they were going to run the Warriors out of the desert.
This was actually a really open, exciting game. Ball in play was a lot, but they had 16 penalties against them. Against a team like Utah, they're going to play territory. They got the territory. They got the possessions, even though they struggled in the set piece. The set piece for New England looks to be important for them as they compete through the rest of the season.
Is it the curse of Deflategate for New England? Or was it just that they were without playmakers? And did Utah find a home in Sin City?
TB12's innocent, mate. Belichick, he'd never do a wrong thing. I'm a Tom Brady fan, so Deflategate, go back to New York, Matt. Who knows? Maybe the week in Vegas wasn't such a great idea. If you've been to Vegas, it is tempting. So, yeah, we'll have to look and see what happens next year if we do the Vegas week and how teams approach that, the double weeks there, like New York and New England did.
If ever a team's name sounded like they should be playing in Vegas, it's the Gilgronis, right? And you had the AGs, the Austin Gilgronis, versus Rugby United New York. The final score, I should say, was 49-31, Pete.
This was an angry Rooney team that I think came out. They dominated this game. The Gilgronis certainly did some good stuff, and they got the bonus point. And for a team like Austin, getting points is important. But Troy Lockyer, he looks like a real player with those 2 tries. One of those, like 40 meters out, just put his head down and out-sprinted everyone else.
Yeah, and Troy Lockyer, great match, man of the match. And the only way he got dinged up was slipping on the concrete, which I thought should have been, covered or bordered before. Guys are sprinting through the field. But if he's man of the match, Kyle Sumption has got to be something because he was a force of nature, Dan.
Kyle Sommer, not only a force, but 0 missed tackles for the game. How outstanding is that? When New York missed 33 tackles for the game, which is alarmingly high, which is probably why you see the Gilgronis, coming back late there. And just a warning for Pete, mate, stay off Lockyer. My man crushes are my man crushes. You start muscling in on those, we're going to have troubles, pal.
You don't want to make the rugby doctor angry at you, Pete, but one final point on that match was I got to toot my own horn. At the Atlas Foundation, Jason Leonard's Atlas Foundation function in New York City,
I told none other than our favorite Welsh prop, the legendary Darren Morris, and James English, that Bastereau
might be playing at number 8, and that was Thursday night.
Yeah, he was actually very effective at number 8. He'd played number 8 at Lyon in the fall in the French top 14 and was a real impact. In particular, he's someone from that position that is able to get the ball over the line. He had 4 offloads and was more of an impact. He's still not an 80-minute player, and he may not be exactly what New York wants, but he's definitely more impactful in the back row than he is in the centers.
Good points. Guys, we have to move along, and we have Houston with 22 points to the Arrows of Toronto, 27, the first of 2 matches that were held up in the try zone without a try at death. And you heard Scott Lawrence say eloquently that it was in the spirit of the game, the law, and yours truly agrees with his take on it. I'm just going to say it a little less eloquently. I think it's just rewarding heroic defense under pressure. What do you think, Dan?
I agree, Matt. I'm 100% with you. If you can stop that scoring motion, especially in this game, it looked like with a 2-player advantage late in the game over the Arrows, the Sabercats were going to steal this. And to somehow hold that ball up, I'm not sure how they got under there, but they did. But, you got to score the try. And if you can play positive defense and stop that, then you don't deserve to lose a game in that situation. Well defended by the Arrows.
And, Pete, we heard a collective phew from the entire nation of Canada because after 2 dopey game misconduct penalties put them down to 13 men, it seemed like the Sabercats had 19 guys on the ice for that final rolling maul sequence.
Well, I mean, it was a game of 2 halves. It was a great first half by Toronto, but this is a new Houston team building off what they did at the end of last year. They came back, and it was really in the penalties, like you said, Dan, that were really the turning point. That allowed Houston to come back. The thing for me in that last play is, who was at the back of the maul? A bunch of backs who didn't know to get to the ball to the back of the maul. I think what's really important is not just that you get the ball down, but you get the ball down clearly enough that the referee can see it. The referee can't see it, he's not going to call it.
All right, and then we had our second gut-churning, drama-filled finish with Seattle and Old Glory. Seattle losing to Old Glory 22-28. And I gotta say, it was, for me, I don't know if you could see this animation that Johnny Lewis Films is going to present to us with a stick of butter. Butterfingers. Matthew Drew Turner, Brock Stoller dropping knock-ons and knocking the ball on and kicks. Were they eating popcorn at halftime, Dan?
I don't know what's going on in Seattle. Defending champs 0-2 and find themselves, backs against the wall going into their game this week. It was funny as we were flying to New Orleans. Pete screamed at me because he was up in first class and I was in 32B. He screamed at me. He goes, "I can't wait to see the influence that the Beast has in this game." And one player can make a difference. Old Glory looked great against the 2-time champs, and I really felt that the scoreline flattered Seattle in the end, that the fact that they were a chance to win the game at the death, I don't think they deserved it. I thought Old Glory played a much better game of rugby in this one.
Pete, were you more surprised that the Beast was in there and that effective and they got the win? Or were you more surprised by there being a section of the plane behind that curtain that Dan was sitting in?
Well, I want to put the record straight. Dan's much taller than me, and I offered him my first-class seat, and he turned me down. So he can throw that shade as much as he wants, but I was a good partner for him. This game was really interesting to me. Seattle had the shortest off-season, and they're looking a little short at the start of the season. It's a long season, and they expect to pay dividends. I think, later on. Mungo Mason at number 7, he had an amazing game. And Jason Robertson could be one of the finds of the season. He's a fly half from New Zealand. He's small, he's only 5'7", but he can kick off both feet, and he scored 2 tries, and he was someone that the Seattle defense couldn't handle.
Next one up, Colorado at San Diego. The Raptors on the short end again, and we haven't even seen Joe Peterson yet. He's still surfing, but that Legion team looks lethal, Daniel.
Yeah, it does. And they have rocketed themselves to the top of the power rankings, or whatever you want to call it. It's really, even though we're only 2 weeks in, just looking at the form guide, Matt, they're going to be so tough to beat. Colorado looking to bounce back after that loss to Houston. Really didn't look like they could find a rhythm in this game, and I put that down to the defense of San Diego. Their line speed, super impressive, communication impressive. They just seem to have a perfect blend of youth and experience in that side, and they're going to be tough to beat. And Torero Stadium's rocking, so home games for them are going to be tough for away teams to come down there and beat them.
Next up, Peter, we had Rugby Atlanta, 22 versus NOLA, 10. I got 2 questions out of this one. Is anybody but me and Oliver Stone suspicious that 4 teams scored 22 points out of these games? I'm just saying.
And they were all the away teams, Matt. All the away teams scored 22 points. It was weird.
Very, very suspicious. Turner and Stoller dropping balls, teams scoring 22 points. But what I thought was more interesting during the broadcast was watching or listening to you two have a cat fight on air about who was more affected by the wet ground.
Well, the thing for me that really stood out in this game was the Atlanta's defense. Scott Lawrence has been the defensive coach for the U.S., and he plays this defense, which is a rugby league defense. It's very aggressive. It's very up in your face. And NOLA just did not have an answer for that defense and its physicality. I think NOLA will learn a lot from this. Remember, they won their first 8 games last year and then fell off the wagon. I think that actually for Nate Osborne, losing a game like this early on, not a bad deal. And I have to tell you that facility down there, Airline on the Shrine, that's going to be an amazing place for rugby games in the next couple of years for NOLA.
That is good to hear, because the venue issue has been a big one in this league, and it seems like it's really taken hold. You had a good one you got a good one in Atlanta, you got a good one in DC. It's all looking good there. But do not go away, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to be back with these gentlemen and their clairvoyance right after this.
If you're in New York City and want to watch some great rugby, have some great food, and some great times, go to the world's best rugby pub, the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street.
And we are back. Matt McCarthy with Dan Power and Pete Steinberg calling in. But Colby has slipped in here again, Mr. Colby Marshall. So we're going to have to give him some airtime. Colby, take it away.
Yeah, Matt. And as always, I got 3 things to say. And one is my player of the week, and that's Troy Lockyer. I mean, the Magician had a day on Saturday against Austin. He had 2 tries and a huge interception, really, when Austin was attempting a comeback in the match. I got to know Troy a little bit in Rooney's preseason, and he's a great kid. And the sky's really the limit for him. And Matt, I think he's just starting to scratch the surface on what he can do in this league. Next up, my player to watch is Jason Robertson, the fly half from Old Glory. In a weekend where fly halves really had a day, Robertson was at the forefront of that. He had 2 tries, a few conversions, and really had his way with Seattle on the weekend, the defending champion. So interesting to see what he can do moving forward after an impressive performance like that. And lastly, the best player in a losing effort has got to go to Penny Tagai from Austin. If anybody watched that Rooney-Austin game, he was hard to miss. I mean, his hustle, his passion. Every time he got the ball, he seemed to make a line break out of nothing. Penny Tagai, my best player in a loss.
Thank you, Colby. Now get the Sam Hill off my set so I can welcome Dan and Pete back. Guys, let's get to the upcoming matches. First up, NOLA in Rugby Town. The Raptors need one. Daniel.
They certainly do. 0-2. They get their first home game of the year. New Orleans coming off a loss, so probably not a great time for the Raptors to get NOLA gold. I think they'll be pretty disappointed with their game on Sunday. I heard they actually brought in an international coach for some consulting work early Monday morning. So if they don't win this week, you can blame him. His name rhymes with Meat Meinberg. So there you have it. Hot tip.
Pete, would you know anything about this international coach brought in for consulting not named Corbacero?
I have no idea what Dan is talking about, but I am going to go with Nola in this game. I think the Raptors still have a problem in their scrum. I think it's going to be a challenge for them, but I think Nola's going to come back strong, and I think that Nola are going to pull this one out.
I tend to agree with both of you on this, and of course we're making these predictions long before the rosters are out and key bodies could be missing from both sides. But I'm thinking that Nola's going to get some bodies back. I could be wrong, and unfortunately I think the Raptors are going to start off 0-3 on the season. Next one up, Utah goes to Austin.
Like, I'm a self-proclaimed Gilgroniac. I've been there since day one, 14 days ago. So I love Austin, love what they're doing, but the Warriors, same Warriors team that played against the Free Jacks shows up. It's going to be a tough game for Austin. I'll go the Warriors.
Pete, this one matches up people that aren't exactly known for drinking against people that are named after a drink.
Well, I'm with Dan. I love what Austin is doing, but I think it's still a little bit early. I know they've got reinforcements coming in. I don't think they're going to be there in time for this game. Utah looks like that coaching staff is really developing them, and they're going to do well. And even though it's away and it's another Bold Stadium, Dan and I were there 2 weeks ago, is a really, really nice facility. I think it's a little bit too early for Austin. I'm going to go for Utah.
And ironically, I am drinking from the Kool-Aid made by the Warriors, and I'm picking the Warriors. Old Glory at Houston.
Old Glory riding that momentum. I'll go Old Glory to get the upset down at Aviva Stadium this weekend.
Pete, you heard the rugby doctor prescribe a win for Old Glory. Are you going the same route?
Dan's right. It's going to be close, but I think the home field advantage gives it to Houston in this game.
The Beast versus a Saber Cat. I'm not sure what kind of animal the Beast actually is, but a Saber Cat at home. I'm going to go with the Beast in DC. I'm going to go East Coast, Eastern Conference. I'm staying with my homies. Toronto visiting the Seawolves, Dan.
Pete and I will be doing this game out in Seattle for CBS Sport. Tough one to call. I'm going to sit right in the fence, Matt, because we have to go out and talk to both coaching staffs, and if we make a prediction, one of the coaching staffs will be disappointed with us and the other one will be overly happy with us, and we can't have that. So I'll sit on the fence. I'll shoot you a text message and let you know who I think off air. There you go, the ultimate fence sitter. Sorry.
That's not going to fly on this program. You're on this program to pick, and I know that we are way out from the game, but it is a must-win for Seattle. So, Dan, I'm going to need a pick from you.
Well, this is the most watched rugby show in America, and I know both coaching staffs, the Americas, I should say, not just America. So I will go for rugby as the big winner in the Pacific Northwest. Sorry, Matt.
By default, that's the loser of the match. That's the pick he gets, ladies and gentlemen. Peter, are you a little bit more of a man than Dan is in this
well,
one?
I was gonna just pick the opposite team of whoever Dan picked. I think it's a close game. I really like Toronto, but I can't believe that Seattle aren't gonna improve. So I'm gonna call this one a tie.
I'm going with Seattle again. A, because I think it's a must-win for them, and Toronto can actually afford a loss. And B, I don't want Adrian Balfour in my face. So, Rooney at Atlanta.
I will go Atlanta over this only because Rooney is hurting on the injury front right now, and the style that Atlanta play will not fall in well to a roster that is pretty depleted.
Interesting. Pete, can the Rattlers strangle the Roosters?
I think it's a close game. I think Rooney has some good firepower. Their line out and their line out mode is still good. But I think this one's going to be a close one, but I think Atlanta's going to pull it out.
I'm going to pick the Roosters because I'm afraid of the Butcher, Kyle Sumption, and Nate Brakeley. The Free Jacks at San Diego.
If Lita and Waka Waka Shakira, this is for Africa, play the fullback Bowden Waka, Free Jacks are going to be in a better shape, but can't pick against San Diego at Torero Stadium with that side and the way they've been playing. I'll go San Diego.
I think we have to go with San Diego until they show us that they have a weakness.
I'm going with San Diego. Apparently, we're out of time. And on that note, on behalf of Scott Lawrence, Dan Power, Pete Steinberg, and Colby Marshall, I'm Matt McCarthy for Rugby Wrap Up in New York, signing off.